Welcome to We the Waste People. I'm John Brown.
And I'm Butterfly Screams. We're two pissed off Americans trying to make sense of what's happening in this country.
Whether it's coming from the right or the left, our goal is to call out the people driving our national collapse and dig into the various resistance movements, past and present, that have fought back under similar circumstances.
Thank you all for joining us today. All five, possibly 10 of you. We greatly appreciate it.
Hey, we laugh, but we love the fact that y'all are here.
I know we do. Like, I really, really do. Um, and on that note, let's go over a couple of housekeeping items. This is something I've been meaning to do in every episode past, but always forget. And that is to remind you all to like, share, and subscribe to our stuff. We would greatly appreciate it. Help get us boosted in the algorithm. And then also, I just wanted to apologize that we have been gone for a month. I don't know how many of you noticed, but we were off for about a month. I had a special day in October, and John and his family came up and visited, which was a lot of fun. And then I also had some other family come and visit, and it was just, October was a pretty busy month for me. So, but we're back. And so I would say, though, that over that time, I had a lot of time to reflect on the podcast. And John and I have decided to put the class discussion segment on the back burner for now. John, I don't know if you want to say anything about that, but I feel like I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to let you talk now.
No, well, first, I want to back up to, the special day in October.
Oh, gosh.
That was, I was so glad we did that. I'm so glad we got together. I had an amazing time. I haven't had just a relaxed weekend away, and I don't remember when. Most of our weekends are spent doing housework, yard work, or running,
Amen.
just running. That was a nice, relaxing weekend, and I had fun. And man, I love what you guys got going on. That's
Thank
amazing.
you. Thank you. Oh my God, we were so happy to have y'all. Um, we live out in the woods, so we keep to ourselves a lot, and we don't get company much. So we had a blast with you guys, and yeah, we'll have to have another bonfire soon. That was a lot of fun,
Absolutely.
and some more Cards Against Humanity. That was also
Always a
very
good
fun.
time.
Yes, my favorite. Anyway,
But
um,
as far as putting the class discussion on the back burner, it's just a pause. We'll still mix it in from time to time. I really enjoy it, and I think that it's beneficial to everyone that might listen to us. But yeah, it's just we're gonna mix it up. We're gonna have more just off the cuff conversation about some topics that we've pre-selected. But yeah, we'll get back to the class discussion if that's something you like.
yeah, y'all feel free to like comment and let us know what you think. I told John from the very beginning that this podcast was going to be very iterative. I want to go back every so often and just kind of review and reflect and see if we're happy with what we're doing. I think the main thing that really John and I really want to do and make sure that we're effective in doing, and that is basically just calling out these billionaires and getting people to understand, like, they are not our friends. They do not like us. They can't stand us. And then also, I it wouldn't be me if I didn't try to insert some intellectual stuff from time to time. So I'm actually thrilled to hear that John would like to bring back the class discussion eventually at some point. So I'm
Absolutely.
always, yeah, I'm always up for learning something new. And so it's fun to do it with others. In fact, I find it the most fun to learn with others. And then the one other thing I wanted to mention to you all before we jump in is that we have decided we would like to see if there is anyone out there who would be interested in being a co-producer, obviously volunteer. This podcast has a long way to go before we start generating any funds, but if you're interested and you like what we're trying to do here and you'd like to be a part of it, do know that if at some point we do start making money, we will share it all equally, because I wouldn't be a proper leftist if I didn't push for cooperative profit sharing, I guess you could say. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out to us at wastepeoplepod@proton.me if you are interested, and in the subject line put co-producer, and we'll get back with you and kind of set up something so we can all sit down and talk and share what it is that we're looking for and what we hope you can help us with. So, and John, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Just no, I think that you summed it up pretty well. Not sure if my memory is pretty short term sometimes. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the podcast.
Yes, that too. Oh, and comment always. Again, I can't
Always.
stress enough. Any feedback you guys want to give us, please, always welcome. Okay, so all right, the first thing I have here that we want to talk about was the No Kings protest. I guess quickly, just to kind of remind everyone, that was on October 18th of this year. I guess it was, what, 2 weeks
2 weeks
ago?
ago.
Yeah, something
This
like that.
Yeah, everything this year feels like it's so much longer than that.
I know. I can't. To me, it's like I cannot believe we're in November. I feel like 25 just started. So when I looked
Yeah.
at it and I said October, I was like, oh, that's crazy. Anyway, so there were about 2,700 events across 50 states, and estimates are that there were over 7 million participants nationwide. Based on what ChatGPT has told me here, is that there was roughly 200,000 that attended in Washington, D.C., which was the largest, which is pretty cool. I wasn't expecting D.C. to be the largest. And then also 100,000 in New York City. So overall, it was peaceful, organized, creative, costumes, inflatables, songs, dancing, people having fun out in the streets. Overall, it was a pretty successful event, it sounds like, and I'm happy that it had such a large turnout. So, I'm always the wet blanket. I'm happy that it was a large event. I'm happy that people are waking up and realizing something's going on, but I do worry that, it's without demands, without like an organized, like, I guess, cause that we're fighting for, and like something that everyone's agreeing on that needs to happen, like, and there's like mass mobilization around that particular thing. I just don't, this all just feels a bit performative to me. And just a pressure, what is it? What's the word I'm looking for? Where you
A
let off
pressure
steam,
valve.
pressure valve. Yes, a
Yeah.
pressure valve for, I guess, people who, again, are waking up and realizing that something ain't right, but they're not real sure what to do. And they know we have the right to protest, so that seems like the best thing to do. But anyway, John, what are your thoughts?
So a few thoughts rather. I'll start with the fact that I think the two biggest things that the protest did achieve. One is it was so large that the corporate media as a whole hasn't been covering it at all, right? Most people who aren't paying attention, who aren't, just into politics the way you and I might be,
Mm-hmm.
they're just going about their lives. They don't know what's going on the other side. They're just like, oh, everybody's going along with it. It's cool. but so it was just so large that you people are who weren't aware are now aware, right? They understand
Mhm.
that there's probably the vast majority of the country is pissed off about what's going on. I would think that's first. Second is it absolutely demolished in my eyes, in my mind, the notion that the regime, that the administration was putting out there, that the left is a bunch of just violent, causing all the issues, were the reason behind all the violent, shootings and deaths, and it's absolutely not the truth at all. But this was another great way of putting that in mass, that it was as peaceful as it was. Now, I did see a young lady who said it wasn't actually a protest. If nobody got arrested on the side of the protesters, it wasn't a protest. It was
Okay,
performative,
that's
right? But
yeah.
I think for those two things that I feel like it achieved, I think it did a great job of that.
Yeah.
I will say, to add to your point, that if there are, and uh, historian Tad Stormer said in a video not long ago that it is a pressure valve release. But now, what's going to be the next step to apply pressure? And I think
Mhm.
one of the biggest challenges that we have as a whole in this country is, at least in my lifetime, and I'm pushing 50. We've never seen anything like this. Now, with my very light amount of history knowledge, I know that there have been times where been bits and pieces, right?
Mhm.
Andrew Jackson, and I know Trump has the photo of Andrew Jackson behind him in the Oval Office. I believe it's the Oval Office. Um, Deployment of the National Guard amongst its citizens is not new. If I'm not mistaken, the first time, and it wasn't actually the National Guard at that time, it was the militias, but they the response to Bacon's rebellion was to deploy the militia, which is ultimately what the National Guard is now. So these aren't all new things, but they are, I think, new for us in our lifetime, for being all at once, and I think that's part of the problem with, I guess, the left, if you will, and I don't think it's just the left. I think there's a lot of people from center right, center left, even center for American politics, that they also have never seen this, and it's so hard because of how much shit they're constantly throwing at us to get our footing,
Mhm.
to even try to assimilate and come up with a demands list of, here's what's going to change, here's how we're going to change it.
Yeah.
And I don't know that anyone's going to be effectively able to get that going in the other direction. Um,
Yeah.
and then
Um
go ahead.
Oh, I just before I forget, I just wanted to say I think it's important and good that you touched on the fact that the National Guard has been deployed multiple times throughout American history. And I just want to add to that that it was usually in response to populist uprisings, because there again, the elites are always making sure that they are on top and that they hold on to power and that they are the ones calling the shots. But anyway, I digress. Go ahead. I'm
Mhm.
sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So, um, I would, I'm not an expert on any of this by any means, but it looks to me to very much be that we're under an authoritarian state. Um, and I saw a video, I think I shared with you a couple weeks ago, that once you reach that state, there's typically only four outcomes that come out of it.
Mhm.
And I've got those pulled up here. One is a pseudo democracy. This is a common path where a facade of democracy is created with elections and some political pluralism, but the rules are tilted to ensure the former regime's elites or a new strongman maintain real control and prevent true opposition from taking over.
Mhm.
The second is fragmentation chaos. The collapse of the central authority leads to instability, civil unrest, and the breakdown of state functions, potentially resulting in regional or local strongmen taking control of resources, aka Mad Max, right?
Mm-hmm.
A return to a different kind of authoritarianism. The initial authoritarian regime is replaced by a new, different form of control, potentially military junta or another type of autocratic system. As simply going back to normal is not a viable option. And the fourth is true reform and democracy. And the video I watched, the person said that this is the one that has the smallest percentage of being the likely outcome in, uh, you know, from political analysis, but that again is true reform slash democracy. And it's a rare outcome that requires significant effort and unity among pro democracy forces, often involving nonviolent mass movements, strong civil society, and potentially a profound external influence or total reconstruction after a significant conflict, such as was the case for Germany and Japan after World War II, to completely remake the state's foundation.
So, of those, which one do you feel like we're headed towards, or most likely to experience?
I don't. I probably the fragmentation. I think what we'll have is going to be something, and it's probably going to be a combination of probably no, the fragmentation, chaos, or a return to the different kind of authoritarianism, or maybe even pseudo democracy and fragmentation. But I think what'll happen is that we'll get four larger countries, or at least three. We'll have like the west coast of, California, Oregon, and Washington for the most part being one large country. Um, I think there will be a southeast Floridian country,
Mm-hmm.
and then a northeastern New York country. And again, I don't think the shapes of those countries will look like those current states look like. Um, but I think that'll be the ultimate outcome. I think that's probably where we're headed to. Maybe some version. I was thinking about this the other day. Maybe some version of an American style USSR. Good lord, I started to say multiple S's there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that
Yeah.
it'll probably be that would is my thought process of where we're probably going to head to. Probably
Yeah.
a lot of small ongoing wars where people are fighting for control. People are fighting for the upper hand, which is stupid because I think the right thing to do would be for us to all come together, and we'll probably talk about this later. But it'll be a perfect opportunity to talk about like democratic confederalism,
Mm-hmm.
something similar to Rojava.
Yeah. I think you're onto something. I kind of envisioned something similar. Except I think mine's a slightly different take in that I sort of imagine like a breakup of the United States similar to how you saw the breakup of the Soviet Union, right? Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
Okay, okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, I think we're headed towards something similar. I think a lot of people don't really think much about the fact too that our country is made up of so many different cultures within its geographic territory. Like it's made up of, different, I guess, demographics. It could be political or even racial and ethnic. And there's a lot going on in our country. Right. And so with this, this conflict we've been dealing with, or this slow dismantling of our federal government, it's really, I think, going to play out. I never thought I would say this, but like I kind of agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene and the need for a national divorce. Like I really do, but I want to. I just let me say the reason why is because I no longer have this like what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I guess loyalty to, or adoration for, our this American history, this mythology that we've been taught, because if you really think about it, like our territory is so freaking huge, right? Like, it in itself is an empire. Okay, forget the fact that we've got bases all over the world. I'm talking about just like the United States, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, we literally swept across the country and annihilated native peoples in the process, spread slavery to all these different corners of the country. And like, our whole project is empire from the very like signing of the Declaration of Independence. I mean, they right then started thinking about expansionism, and how they wanted to expand further and further and further west. And so, does it break my heart the way that it probably would have, I don't know, 5 years ago, to think about the breakup of our country? Not anymore, because I realized that it's all stolen land anyway, and like, the fact of the matter is like, over the course of a few centuries, like, different cultures in different regions have developed over time. And because we can't have like a government that, delivers for all of us, we're experiencing this fracture that is, I think it's irretrievable at this point. And so uh, the idea of us breaking up into like smaller units, it doesn't bother me the way that it probably used to.
Yeah, I'm pretty much for the most part right there with you. I think that, we had a conversation the other day about deconstructing and
Hmm.
deconstructing from, the church. For me these days, it's deconstructing from the thought of I'm a capitalist, right? And I've asked myself this a few times over the years. Am I a capitalist? Or is it that I was born into capitalism and that's all I've ever known? And everything else is a little daunting, if you will. It's a little unfamiliar, scary. Um, but I don't know that I'm stuck on what we've had or what we would have if we just went back to status quo. Um,
Hmm.
and that's a little bit of a journey. That's a continuing journey for me. Um, I definitely started probably 4 or 5 years ago coming to understand the how much the our nation's history was not really what we had been taught in school. Most of it was bits and pieces that were glorified, right? And it was made into something bigger than it really was. Washington never chopped down the cherry tree. Never happened. Um, and he never said, "I cannot tell a lie." Those 2 things were made up by, I believe, one of his, uh, autobiography authors or biography authors later down the road and put that in there, to kinda sell the, Americanism, if you will. Um, so yeah, I think I'm right there with you for the most part.
Yeah, I think deconstruction is actually a really good thing for a lot of us on the left right now, whether it's deconstructing from capitalism or deconstructing the history, or the mythology, I should say, that we've grown up to believe. I just feel like this is such an important moment for people on the left to self reflect and, particularly like what makes them like on the left, like, there's been so much propagandizing of us, especially our generation. Like, I mean, I have done a lot of like my own like self learning on, you know, leftist political theory, leftist social movements, not just in America, but all over the world. Um,
Can we
because,
can I jump in for a second? I
yes.
wanna just because you keep saying leftist, right? And I
Hmm.
keep thinking about the fact that and several of the influencers I've seen on especially YouTube, would always say American left, right? And it's so funny to me that we have to have that caveat. You've got the left versus right in the on the world stage. What the rest of the world sees is left versus right, and then you've got the American left versus right.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to wonder how many people in our country don't know truly know what the left versus right is to the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because most people in our country think that the left here is truly left, but we're not, or they're not. I think I'm getting more and more to true leftist than I was, even 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think? Do you think people truly understand left versus right and the difference in the rest of the world's left versus right and American left versus right?
No, I do not think they understand, but it's also complicated because there's so many different components wrapped up into what is considered left versus what is considered right. And I think most people often think of it in terms of like, are you pro-capitalist or anti-capitalist? Are you for big government or small government? Are you for what's another one? Equality versus liberty, that's another one. But I have looked at it through like an anthropological lens where I'm looking at the power structure that is um, like inherent in left versus right. Like there's this guy that I watch. I know I sent you a video, and I would encourage you to keep going with his stuff. I know you said you got hung up on a few things that he said, but I would encourage you to keep going because he takes his analysis to like different cultures as well, and talks a lot about like the differences in the power structures. Like typically right wingers, they tend to follow, they tend to gravitate towards power structures that are more hierarchical, more top down. In fact, you'll hear a lot of right wingers here in America say, "Oh, we're not a democracy, we're a republic." Well, actually, they're right. They're definitely right. They are not. We are less of a democracy and more of a republic because we literally elect people to make decisions for us. Okay. And that forms a smaller class of people who make incredibly important decisions for a much larger number of people, right? That is called representative democracy or a republic. Whereas like the left, they tend to gravitate towards more horizontal types of power structures where you've got more participatory democracy, more direct democracy, where you find like people forming like councils at the local level, making decisions like democratically and that sort of thing. So like that's a whole nother way to look at the left versus right that most people don't even think about, right? Is like the power structure that the left versus right represents. And so that's more of what I'm thinking about when I think of left versus right these days. Sorry, that was a really long-winded answer.
No, 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 no. Don't be sorry. Yeah.
What was the question? I forgot the question. I'm so sorry.
No, so I was just, the original question was that, do you think people truly understand the difference
Oh,
between left versus right? And do you think that they understand there's a difference between the rest of the world's left, right, and American left, right?
yes. I remember now. Thank you. The answer to your question is no, because it's very complicated. But generally, if we're talking like everyday people, left versus right, like that's the thing. American left versus right is so much further right than any other country's version of the left versus right. Like it's crazy to me that we talk about the left in this country because that is it leaves so much to be desired in terms of like what left actually is historically and traditionally. um that and it really speaks to the propagandization. Is that the word? Propagandization. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say.
Sounds
It
right
really
to me.
speaks to that level of just how much we have been indoctrinated as Americans into capitalism, and how it is the only way. It is the only way to be, and it's the only right way. Everything else is going to fail, and it's just yeah, there it's vast. Like, for example, France's left versus our left, totally different. Totally different. In fact, I would say our left, if you want to compare it to European standards, our left is probably more like center right in Europe.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's my answer to your question. um so with left and right in mind and what we've just talked about, like, what do you think of the Democratic Party in terms of like left? And then also, do you think we have any hope for it to, I don't know, save us at this point?
Man, no, no, I don't think the Democratic Party itself will save us. I think if anything has any chance of saving us, and in all honesty, that is not there's not an easy black and white answer for me there, right? I don't think I want us to be saved in the way that most people would think of saving us, right? I do
Mm-hmm.
not want to go back to what we had in, say, 2012,
Mm-hmm.
which is just 4 years before Trump got elected. And again, while I despise the man, Trump is not the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
he is the current dictator in chief, wannabe authoritarian,
Mm-hmm.
but he is more of a puppet than anything, right? Um, I I I think if the left saves us, the Democratic Party saves us, it will be out of spite. And what I mean by that is um, Mamdani in New York.
Mm-hmm.
He would be closer to the left of the rest of the world than the American left. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that when he's elected, because I believe he will be elected, if the federal government, our current so-called federal government, doesn't go in and completely do everything they can to fuck it up, I think it will do well. I think it will show the rest of the country that there is something other than the capitalism that we understand and know, and that it it will absolutely destroy the country as we know it. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Everything we've always been taught is how bad every other form of government it is, right? It all
Mm-hmm.
causes all these other forms of governing causes bloodshed. It causes loss. While we're causing bloodshed and loss of life,
Mm-hmm.
while we're going in and completely destroying countries for capitalism,
Mm-hmm.
democracy. Um, so I think if the Democrats save us, it'll be out of spite. It'll be because they're forced to, because the American people will do what New York has done, and that is they have chosen something other than the status quo, what has always been.
Mm-hmm. You're way more optimistic than I am. Um, yeah, I got no love for the Democrats, and you know this. I just, I just feel like they're going to push another week at, well, performatively strong, like Gavin Newsom, slick hair, too much hair gel, fucking ugh. Anyway, they're gonna push that guy. They're gonna push who's another one that we're hearing a lot about here recently that's like super corporate. Am I Do you know who I'm talking about? I feel like there's another one that's like kind of leading the pack
Right?
of
No, right
corporate
now,
Dems.
I mean, maybe and I don't really think I hear him being spoken about the way they speak about Newsom, but maybe Pete Buttigieg.
Oh,
And I've
gross. Oh,
he
my blood pressure is gonna go up having this
uh,
conversation. I can already feel it.
um and yeah, I as far as a person goes, I think I like Pete. As far as changing things, I think he's the status quo.
Oh, he's
He
absolutely
is
status quo.
he's Obama. Only,
Hmm.
he's a gay white dude.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna hate on Obama completely. I have the things about him I liked, and I have the things about him that I dislike, right? But I don't think it is actually any real change.
Hmm.
I think it is ultimately just that. So when Obama was in office, I was at the point where I would tell you that they were the exact same party,
Yeah.
and that's what I told everybody. My if you went back when I had Facebook and you looked at my timeline of the things I posted politically, the majority of it was that the left and the right were the same party.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that social issues are pretty much the only thing that makes the Democratic Party different from the Republicans, because anytime there's ever been any effort to provide some like economic relief of any kind, the Dems always find some dumbass reason why they can't do it. And it's so obvious what the reality is. It's because their donors don't want it, and they're there for their donors. That's their job, is to uh vote and legislate on behalf of donors,
Yeah,
period.
absolutely.
um and so and even with the social issues, they fail on that front too. I mean, think about how like Biden said he was going to go all in for the Voting Rights Act or police reform. You know what I mean? Like,
So
he didn't do jack shit.
the only grace I'll give both Obama and Biden when it comes to those things is, and again, it is the way our government is structured to begin with, and that is, or at least these days, and that is what you were talking about earlier, the corporate donors, right? I'm sorry, but a corporation is not a person. I don't give a fuck what they say.
Mm,
But I think no matter what they wanted to do, and I think Biden really wanted to go further left than what he was allowed. And when I say allowed, I mean he had multiple, and so did Obama, multiple people on the American left, the Democratic side, who were fucking against him, who didn't want to see it happen. You know what I mean? Um,
yeah,
but
I think.
otherwise, I would agree with you 100% on that.
Are you referring to like Manchin and Cinema and how they always held up what he wanted to
As
pass
far
or
as Biden
whatever?
goes, yeah, I would say yes. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
well, I'm here to call BS on that, because
Okay.
the president of the United States has the bully pulpit. Okay. He isn't, and this is the problem with Democrats. They don't use their power, and they're too worried about playing nice with one another. They don't want to challenge each other. They don't, it's like fucking groupthink. Like, it's
I will not disagree
like,
with you at all on
it's
that.
so, it's so bad. And like, I'm sorry, but like Kristen Cinema or Kirsten, whatever the hell her name was, and Mansion, those if you notice, it's like there's always a few Democrats that hold up, that they can point to and say, "Oh, they're the reason." It's too convenient. It's so convenient. I swear that like it's like Democratic Party rule or something, to always make sure that there's going to be a fake ass Democrat there to get in the way of every good thing that the Democrats could possibly do. And as far as like Joe Biden goes, nah, man, when you're the president of the United States, you have the bully pulpit. It is your job to get your party in line. It is your job to tell your party, this is the deal. You're gonna vote in favor of it, or I'm going to see to it that you don't get reelected. I'm going to shame you. I'm going to drag you through the mud. I'm going to do everything it takes to make sure that you suffer for not voting for my agenda. I am the president of the United States. You
So
know, like,
you think Biden's approach should have been more in line with Trump's approach?
yes, I do. This is the system we've got, right? And if you're going to wield power and actually get shit done, you have to use your power. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I
And
agree with you 100% on those things, and that goes back to even when Obama was in office. And I think his first term, he had the majority in all, he had the House and the Senate. And somehow the Republicans still seem to, as a whole, control it. They controlled what happened. Mitch McConnell is a fucking beast. Was a beast. Now he can barely stand up. But
mm-hmm.
that dude. I won't say he's responsible alone for where we're at, because that would mean that the Democrats are victims, and I don't think they're victims. Just like you were saying, they're victims of themselves. Even recently, it was either Cory Booker or Hakeem Jeffries who, I want to say, scolded, or their response. I'm sorry, their response to people who were calling in talking about, why are you not doing anything? His response was like, what do you want us to do? We're going to continue with decorum. We're going to continue to proceed. Like, basically, he was like, we're professionals. We're going to come dressed to the nines, and we're not going to ruffle feathers. Motherfucker, ruffle some feathers.
Yeah, like I have no love for that. I have no love for that kind of weakness. And like it's just, I don't know, their worship of like institutionalism and
Yeah.
civility and decorum. It's just like so gross. And like I've just come to the conclusion that it's all intentional. Like they don't care. The vast majority of Democrats, they're there for their donors. They're capitalists at the end of the day. They benefit from the current system. They're not interested in helping you or me or any common folk out. They're just not, and that's just, and I was thinking as I was writing down my stream of consciousness, like that I remembered in the first episode, I admitted that I did not vote for Obama in the second, or his second run. And I was curious if you would like to know why, because I wrote those reasons down.
Yeah, please share.
Okay. One, and pretty much everything I'm about to tell you is like proof that he was a sellout and he never intended to do shit anyway. So his healthcare plan, total BS. It was Republican. It was called Romney Care. It came from, I want to say, a Massachusetts healthcare plan that, like, he basically replicated and just gave it to the whole country. And in his first term, he had a supermajority for part of that first 2 years, I believe it was, where he could have done so much. Like, he could have pushed for public option, Medicare for all. He could have, like, again, bully pulpit. That was the time. And then most egregiously, this is probably the number one reason that I could not vote for him again. He did nothing. And this is part of why we're where we're at today. He did nothing to punish the Bush administration for taking us to a war built on nothing but lies. He spied on us. They created black sites for rendition. They tortured supposed enemy combatants, and it just, the list freaking goes on as far as like the atrocities that the Bush administration committed. And Obama, what did Obama say to that? Oh, I prefer to look forward.
Two thoughts there. Let me. So two thoughts. One, that's, and I think it's part of the bigger problem with our country for a long time, right? I'm a fan of Grant, Ulysses S. Grant. I'm a fan, but that's exactly what he did when he became president. I think a lot of where we're at today goes back to what happened after the Civil War, and I don't think the South was held accountable enough. And when I say the South, I don't mean the working class South, the people that had nothing going for them, the people that were just surviving because they could barely, or just barely surviving, because you had people who were enslaved, white people, poor whites could not get a job hardly at all, right? And that's not a, oh, we had it worse or any stupid thing like that. That is just the way it was. But the plantation owners, the planter class that had control of the US government going into the Civil War, there was not enough accountability after that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was too much. The nation is tired. Let's move forward. It's
Mm-hmm.
we need to basically it's we need to save the union. So we're compromising on these things. We're letting things go that we shouldn't in an effort to save the union. So it's a long history of that happening. And I guess the second thing is what would holding the Bush administration look like? Just kind of a broad picture for me. Paint a broad picture for me
What
of
Biden
what
should have
that.
done, what Biden should have done the moment he got in office and held Trump accountable for the insurrection. He should have had the DOJ looking into it. Like he should have, like there's a process. Like our government allows for the process to prosecute former presidents, former office holders, whatever politicians. There is a process. Like Obama could have done something to try and hold the Bush administration accountable, because all that shit they went overseas and did, all that same shit is now happening within our borders. It laid the literal groundwork for empire to come home. And he should have been punished, if not, like, if he hadn't like officially done anything, like, had the DOJ look into it or whatever, like he should have never stopped talking about how, undemocratic and unconstitutional the Bush administration was. You know what I mean? Like he should have never let that go. He should have done more to overturn the things that the Bush administration allowed to happen. So, but he didn't, again, because all that stuff laid the groundwork for what we're experiencing now. I mean, ICE was founded under the Bush administration, like all these horrific things that we could never imagine happening within our borders, but, happened with no issues overseas under the Bush administration is now happening to us.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that gets me fired up real bad. So, and another thing that pissed me off with Obama is not a single banker went to jail for the 2008 financial crisis. Instead, he bailed them out. And he didn't do
Oh,
shit. He did not do shit for the American people.
100% agree. 100% agree.
The other thing was the Occupy movement. That right there, he could have done so much with that. But instead, he just paid a little lip service to it. It was like, I understand people's frustration, the income inequality is really bad. And, it makes sense that people are going to take to the streets when things get tough. He didn't do shit. That could have been the start of a huge, huge movement, right? But he was never interested. And then lastly, and trust me, I'm sure I could go on. The last thing is the drone war. Like any drone wars going on under Bush, he put them bitches on steroids under Obama. I mean, it's disgusting. I cannot stand Barack Obama. I'm sorry. Can't stand him.
Yeah, it's I cannot disagree with anything you said, right? My I guess rose-colored glasses is just the civility that we seem to have, and maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe the civility that we shouldn't have had then would have kept us from getting to where we're at now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if there was less civility from Obama and the Obama administration, we wouldn't be here.
Or maybe a genuine desire to help the people. because I don't think that ever existed. Because he is an elite. He's Harvard grad, or I don't know. I'm sure he went to some Ivy League school, but he's. I mean, he's cut from the same damn cloth as all the other ones. Like he's never like
Yeah,
you
and that's
know.
where and that's back to my point earlier. That's where when I say the Democratic Party saves us out of spite, I don't believe the Democratic Party as it is will save us.
Hmm.
I believe that because again, to get a third party in this country to actually have an impact, it takes a huge ground movement first. You can't just have a, I don't know, fuck it, we'll call it a dog party, right? You can't have the Cocker Spaniel party up there. You can't have a president of the Cocker Spaniel party up there without any Cocker Spaniel members of Congress to get anything done. So everybody falls into our stupid two-party system. You're either Republican or you're Democrat. And I don't believe Mamdani is truly a Democrat. And I'm okay with that. But to be able to be in our political system, he has to, and that's the closest Democratic or the closest party that we have that fits, right? So, and again, I don't think it'll be that we're saved anytime soon. I don't think we're going to get Trump, whether he dies in office and JD Bowman takes over, and we're able to get Bowman out of there in 2028 and put in let's just say fucking Gavin Newsom takes it. Okay, fine. I don't think it's a big change. I probably see that as a slightly different version of what we have, right? Because he's going to have to be a tough man to try to regain control and all that. But I think maybe as that happens, if when Mamdani wins in New York and that movement grows, right? And there's a groundswell there and it grows outward and the American people see it, then that will become the Democratic Party. It's not that the Chuck Schumers of the and the Nancy Pelosi's of the Democratic Party are going to suddenly change. They're going to be pushed out. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely
It's
think the Democratic Party is in need of its own, uh, for lack of a better word, MAGA movement.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say. If you go back to the Obama administration's time, that's when the Tea Party came out, right? During that was um, the Occupy movement happened. Well, the opposite of the Occupy movement was the Tea Party. The Tea Party morphed into MAGA, and MAGA is currently our government. They are Republican. They're not Republican in what you and I knew when we were teenagers, but they
Hmm.
are the Republican Party now. And any Republican that was part of the Republican Party that we knew when we were teenagers is for the most part gone. And I think that's ultimately what I mean when I say if there's a chance of saving us, the Democratic Party will do it out of spite because they will no longer be the Democratic Party that we know.
Right.
The all the people that are currently there that we would consider to be corporate Dems will be gone. Your furthest left Democrat right now, you would say is AOC and Bernie, right?
Hmm.
I think those will be the Pelosi's and the Schumers of the Democratic Party when Mamdani's kind of the thinner version of the Democratic Party, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so that's ultimately what I mean when I say that they'll save us out of spite. It's because they won't have any choice. They'll be for the current corporate Dems will be forced out of position, and a new generation will take over, and it will be truly more towards the left, and you will see what's happening in New York start to grow outwards as people see that it's not the monster under the bed. It's not the monster in the closet. You know what I mean? It's not when I was a kid, the horror movie that scared me to death was Poltergeist. So it's not the poltergeist in the fucking closet. It's
Hmm.
actually better than what we've got. What probably better than what we've ever had.
Hmm.
But and again, I don't know that it'll actually be able to happen because I think there's There's a whole lot of fucking things that have to line up for that to happen.
Yeah. Personally, I think what needs to happen as far as like anyone who considers themselves on the left, they really, really need to start looking into leftist history, leftist theory. They need to understand, okay, you need to understand this moment. If you're feeling uncomfortable because something doesn't seem right, then that means this is your brain telling you, hey, something's wrong. Maybe everything I thought, that was everything that I thought was real. Maybe I need to like revisit that. Maybe I need to really revisit like where I stand politically so that I can understand how, like, where we are and how we got here. Right. It's so important. I can't express enough the importance of just basic political literacy and how badly the left needs it, because we call ourselves the left, but so many of us don't really understand what that means. And as far as I'm concerned, and John, I don't know if you want to get into this video, but they touch on what I'm about to say. But right now, what we're experiencing is the right wing going to the absolute extreme of what the right wing is. And where that ends up is Nazi territory. Okay. And so we, as people who are opposed to that and consider ourselves on the left, we need to answer that with an equal and opposite reaction, right? And that starts with getting informed about what the left is, what the left stands for, and then move. It's time to mobilize, right?
Yeah, let's get into that video.
So, on the note of what I was just saying, last night I came across this video. And it is the most honest and real analysis coming from left-wing commentators that I've seen. Because again, I feel like so many people are just living in this either denial stage, or maybe they're just still hoping for the best, or they think that we still live in a democracy and we're going to continue to just vote our way out of this mess. And what they're about to say is why I think it's so important for us to get educated and informed on what the left actually is. Okay, so in this video, they're discussing like overall the significance of how figures like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and especially Nick Fuentes, how they're all suddenly coming together in their opposition to very specific things: Israel, billionaire influence, Epstein, and the establishment, right? And they're making the argument that while these issues are legitimate, it's a move. It's a very intended hook to sort of bring in like moderates and independents and people who aren't really paying all that much of attention, like apolitical folks. It's an attempt to get these people onto the fascist train that we are barreling towards right now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play it. It's 10 minutes long. We'll play it and we'll comment as we go along. John, don't forget to let me know when you want to.
I'll jump in.
Okay.
I'm going to give you some evidence, and then you come up to your own conclusion. The year is 2025. It's Halloween. It's October 31st. Jared and I are hyperbolic. We suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. We're just these cosmopolitan lefties, even though Jared's in the Midwest. And I'm a flaming leftist, socialist, godless heathen, even though I'm a practicing Muslim. Well, married to one woman who drives a minivan and has 3 kids. But I digress. The Department of Homeland Security on October 14th, its main Twitter handle literally tweets, "Remigrate." Remigrate is a word only used in white nationalist spaces that means ethnic cleansing. They haven't done a follow-up. They haven't apologized. That tweet is still up. Donald Trump has quoted Hitler several times. He said that these immigrants are, quote, poisoning the blood of America. He said we have to get rid of the enemy from within. He's also talked about having people from good genes. He's also talked about people come from countries that aren't shithole countries. General Kelly said in the first Trump administration that Donald Trump kept praising Hitler for his generals, and he wished he had generals like that. Stephen Miller, an open, avowed white nationalist, who in the first Trump administration, a white nationalist who used to work at Breitbart, a former white nationalist woman, said that Stephen Miller used to send her white nationalist content to publish in mainstream in Breitbart. If that's not enough, Stephen Miller at the Arizona rally, this propaganda rally for Charlie Kirk, I refuse to call it a memorial, just happened to, again, sound like Nazis when he plagiarized and or was inspired by Goebbels' The Storm is Coming speech from 1932. They did a compare and contrast. They're like, oh my God, he is using Goebbels' The Storm is Coming speech. Huh. In 1933, the Nazis did, well, allegedly.
I just want to stop there and say that I think of all the people in Trump's orbit right now, Stephen Miller is the most terrifying one. Like, I don't know that there's a more evil.
I think he's probably the most terrifying that's visible. There are other people in the background that I think are probably a little more terrifying than Miller. They're just not seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I think Miller likes I think Miller likes the attention of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would be the one thing that keeps me from thinking that he's the worst person in that administration. I think the worst people are the people we're not seeing.
Yeah. I just think Stephen Miller is a certifiable psychopath. Like, he literally, like a sadist, actually. He gets joy out of others, like watching others suffer. Like, you can just see it on his face how joyful he is about the thought of someone suffering. Ugh, I hate him.
They created a false flag with the Reichstag fire. Everyone kind of thinks, not everyone, but many historians think they had a hand in burning down the Reichstag, and then they blamed the communists. And they used that as an excuse to declare martial law. Once martial law was declared, game was over. Hitler became what? Dictator. What have you heard in the past month? We need to invoke the Insurrection Act. Stephen Miller has been saying it since the summer. Who else said it? Pam Bondi. Who else said it? Donald Trump. You've heard it here. Me and Jared say that if it all goes to hell and it's looking bad and it looks like they're not going to win the midterms, they're going to invoke the Insurrection Act and then lead to martial law. Folks, he's negative 31 on the economy, food stamps, and it's going to run out. And we haven't even talked about the gunning of Medicaid that's going to happen in 2026. It's getting really bad. Democrats, being as weak as they are +9. In a hypothetical advantage, and Mamdani's about to become a winner, and Latinos for Trump have left, young voters for Trump have left. People are pissed off about Epstein. They're pissed off about America First agenda not being fulfilled. They're pissed off about this war. He's going to go to war with Venezuela. And furthermore, if I may say, Pam Bondi said, what we're doing to these drug smugglers in Venezuela, no evidence they're drug smugglers, we're going to do to these leftists, Antifa. What are they doing to them? Blowing them up without due process. It's all in front of you. And then if you want a little bit more evidence, Jared, just in the past 2 weeks, the most rotten trick-or-treat from the heavens on our feet for those who are doubtful or skeptical about what you and I have talked about for the past 30 minutes. 2,900 pages of Telegram text messages between young Republican leaders in their 30s, openly promoting Nazi white supremacist ideology. Paul Ingrassia, a man who was supposed to be handpicked by Donald Trump to lead a federal watchdog agency, had to resign because a text came out that said he has a Nazi streak. A Republican aide for a Republican congressman has a U.S. flag with a swastika on the flag in Congress because it's totally normal. And then Nick Fuentes, who I've been warning about ever since he dined with Donald Trump 2.5 years ago, has now been publicly embraced by Tucker Carlson and the Heritage Foundation. Jared, that was just top of my head. I'm sure I'm.
Okay, I just, like, if you thought Waj was on point as far as like drawing the parallels between now and Nazi Germany, you just wait till this good fella Jared Yates Sexton or whoever he is goes off, because he's on point. Like, he gets it.
You mentioned a minute ago earlier about your blood pressure rising. I feel mine rising.
Oh goodness, yeah. This is, well, just wait. Do you take blood pressure medication? Because you might need to after this.
I'm missing some stuff.
Oh, we also have a reactionary force, 23,000 guardsmen who are being trained in order to go anywhere in the country at any given moment. And weirdly enough, Waj, they're coming online in 2026. That's odd. That's really odd.
And also speak about ICE. All this Aryan Nazi white supremacist AI generated images that people are saying, oh, this looks like the posters the Nazis used. What am I missing, Jared?
And you know what else is funny about that, Waj? Whether it's the SA or the SS or just the general, Nazi party, as the economy was going to hell in Germany, it became one of the biggest employers. Isn't that strange? Isn't it weird that disaffected white men, and by the way, America had a big giant move towards Nazism. We don't talk about that. Right? America was always against Nazism. We don't talk about the American Nazi Party and the fascists in this country that were, gathering after the Great Depression. So I'll just throw some things out, Waj, and we can just sort of, I don't know, sit with them. Does it seem like this administration is intentionally demolishing this economy? Yes, it is. It absolutely is. We're also sitting on one of the biggest bubbles that we have ever seen in the history of this country. So we're also talking about a product that this bubble rests on that is going to go ahead and basically throw the entire white collar class out of work. Here's the thing, Waj. We like to think that the Nazis were only supported by a brutish working class that were too stupid to realize they were being lied to. The main driver of the Nazi class was when the white collar class went to them. That's where things took off. So now all of a sudden, we've taken all of the money that would have went towards social programs. We've thrown it into ICE, which is a secret police, which looks a hell of a lot like the SA and the SS. All of a sudden now, that's going to be one of the main employers in the United States of America, and it's ideologically aligned with Donald Trump and his goals. That's really odd, isn't it?
Let me jump in here. And maybe they mentioned it. Because a couple of nights ago, I want to say it was the exact same time that many of us found out about the directive for the Guard, right? To be basically a response unit around the country. Trump also came out and said that any police officer that wants to join the world's, I forget exactly what he said, but basically the world's best tactical unit to fight criminals and whatever, whether you're retired or whatever, can join. He's actively recruiting those motherfuckers that are the racist, the fucking Nazis in America for ICE. That's exactly what they're leading to. And I have no doubt that they wanted the so-called left in this country to have already given him reason to implement the Insurrection Act, to implement martial law. And I think that we didn't. And that's not the only reason, but that's one of the many reasons that they're doing everything they can to cause an economic downturn in the worst possible way. And I believe it's absolutely going to be as bad as, if not worse, than the Great Depression, because it will give them the opportunity to do exactly what they want to do, and that is Nazi Germany 2.0.
Oh yeah, dark times ahead, that's for sure. But man, I love this guy. I'm gonna have to look more into his work because he nails it.
6-figure salary, Jared.
It's a 6-figure salary, and by the way, what else do we have in this country? A lack of purpose and meaning. Join it. It's like the old army ads. Be a part of something larger. Be a part of a crusade. What is Nick Fuentes and all of these crypto Nazis saying to young white men? You don't have meaning. You don't have purpose. Be a part of something larger. That's the essence of white supremacy. It gives you meaning and purpose when you don't have any.
Community. It gives you community. It gives you a pathway towards ascension. It gives you a brotherhood, and it gives you a narrative where you're the good guy.
And by the way, every person that I've ever talked to who has either been in the middle of a white nationalist movement or has left it, they were all lonely. They didn't have purpose. Yeah. They needed community. So here's the thing, Waj. I want to say a couple things to bring all this together. One, does Donald Trump understand what he's doing? No, he's an idiot. But he's an instinctual fascist. He feels it. You know, he has the demeanor of a fascist. Everyone always says, oh, he has Hitler's books. He didn't read any of those books. He just had them around because he likes being near dictators, and he is inherently a fascist. He's an incredible tool for moving towards fascism and going ahead and destroying all these guardrails. It's people behind him like Stephen Miller, Steve Bannon, all of those people. And by the way, the wealth class that is funding all of these plans through their think tanks and institutes, those are serious people. And they are creating and by the way, the tech oligarchs who are like, oh, by the way, we're happy to create a surveillance system. We're happy to help ICE. We're happy to help with all these secret police things. The next part of it is this. Fascism presents us with three choices, Waj. One is fight and be crushed. The second is to lock your door and hope that they don't come for you. And the third is to put the armband on and goose step down Main Street and join in on the spoils. The problem at this point is the United States of America, the fighting against it, it feels more frightening than ever, and it's supposed to keep us from fighting this thing. It's supposed to feel inevitable, and we just need to save ourselves. The second, lock your door and hide from it. You know where I'm seeing that from? Liberals and moderates.
Yep.
The people who should know better, and meanwhile, they're like, well, I don't really want to be crushed. I really don't want to lose things. Go back to Weimar. If people don't understand it, go back and look at the political environment at that time. The only
I just got to jump in and say, like, I feel that so much. Like, one of my biggest, like, I guess, irks is watching so many people, and honestly, people that I care very deeply about, they're so asleep because they're just so comfortable right now, right? They have not been affected by this directly in any way, right? Their jobs are still giving them paychecks. They're, you know, they don't really have any brown friends, so they're, you know, they're just not in a situation where they're being directly impacted yet. And it sucks because, like, I don't know what to do with that. Like, there's me and what makes me me. And that is like this, like, overwhelming desire to talk about it with them, but they don't care. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want to talk about it. And it's so maddening. But yes, they are definitely in that group of, like, totally asleep and totally comfortable, and they don't think they're in any danger.
The only reason this stuff works is because people live in denial. Like, you and I have been screaming about this for a decade or more. Those people don't want to admit it. It'll pass. It'll be fine. Maybe Donald Trump will die. Maybe a court will say something, whatever. The third, putting the armband on and doing this, people do not understand that as the economic environment changes, that armband is going to start looking better to a lot of people.
Yep.
And by the way, the crypto Nazis, they're the only ones offering an actual sort of diagnosis of what's going on. And it starts with a kernel of truth. You've been betrayed. Yes, we have. All of a sudden now you're fed a bunch of content, which makes it look better and better to put the armband on. And those three choices are where we sit. And everything you just laid out, Waj, it's not hyperbolic to say, I know where this is going, because they tell us.
Yep.
They tell us constantly where this thing is going. What we're saying is, my God, after all this time, we have to draw a line in the sand, because, as I keep saying, we're being herded in somewhere. And there's a gate that will shut at some point. You can't wait for the gate to shut, because at that point they have everything. They have all of the levers of control. You have no options at your table. The only thing you have to choose there at that point is dying, locking the door and denying what's going on, or putting the armband on. And that is not just Nazism and fascism. That is every authoritarian regime we've ever seen.
So, yeah. I don't think I could have said it any better. Like, everything they just described is our reality right now. And people need to wake up. They need to find what motivates them, you know, to get out in the streets and to, I would say, do more than protest, but, like, come together. Like let's organize. Let's figure out, like, what our demands are. You know what I mean? Like, are you familiar with any, I guess, efforts to come up with a demand, like for the resistance? Like, is there any, like, who do we look to? I think
So
is my issue.
there are those efforts that are happening. The Again, and I think I said something similar earlier. The problem is that it's layered, right? It's very layered. The people in our country that even have a clue on any chance of changing the outcome here are having to protect themselves. And what I mean by that is you go back to the civil rights movement. That had to be the closest thing to banding together and having a plan to overcome what we're facing now. And I'm not saying it's exact, but I'm saying that that would be the closest thing I can think of in our country, at least, anywhere even close to my lifetime. But the people who led that, the people that would have that knowledge passed down, have to protect themselves, and they would absolutely be hurt in every way possible, because that's the story of that's a big part of the history of our country and the story of our country. It was able to be peaceful for the most part because it was predominantly white people as a whole. I'm not saying that other people did not participate in the No Kings, but it was mostly white people, and I think that's why it was mostly peaceful. And I don't mean that they would have caused the unrest. What I mean is that there weren't people trying to force more agitation, more disruption. Um, people, black people in general, just being at the front of a protest, no matter if they were doing the exact same thing I was doing, they would be singled out before I was, right?
Right. Just their presence would have the cops, like, they
Yeah,
would be all over it. Just their very
absolutely.
presence has them already on edge. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. So and so I think that that's one of the not the only issue, but that is a contributing factor to the struggle of a true opposition, right? An oppositional movement, is that the vast majority of people with my skin tone that look like me are on the other side, and or they've never been through this. I've never been through anything like this. I don't have a clue as
mhm.
to how to make this better, how to change it. But I guess to answer the question, yes, there are people trying to figure it out. They are trying to come up with the goals to achieve the opposition to it. But I there's a large handicap. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I think a big part of it too is just the size of our country. Like, it does create problems when it comes to, like, local on the ground organizing, because we're just so vast and so spread out, like, it's just, I mean, thankfully we have the internet to, like, help enable the communications and whatnot, but
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 most of that communication's been hijacked by the people who are for what's going on. You know what I
true
mean? By the
that. Yeah.
wealthy, and we're going to talk about one of them here in a little while. The villain of our story this week. Um, but so they are able to manipulate that communication.
Mhm. Yeah. I think the main, like, message that I want to get across today for this particular episode is there's a literal march to Nazi fascism happening right now. And the only way to counteract that is to do it equally and oppositely. And that means get educated on what it means to be on the left. Okay? Because I think you're going to find a lot of hope in it. I think it's going to motivate you. It's going to get you riled up. It's going to get you ready to go.
Okay,
Okay?
let
Because
me
When I say you, by the way, I mean just whoever might be listening.
No, I know. And I'm glad you said that, because that's what I'm going to ask is, for people who want to do so, where would you have them start? Because if you don't know, you don't know, and that can be a very large and daunting task, and they may even end up going down the wrong path, because let's be honest, there have been some people like Hitler who have absolutely co-opted certain terms and phrases for their purpose, for their benefit.
That's an excellent question. And as perfectionist as I am, you would think I would have a list prepared, ready to go, and I do not.
That's okay.
But I will put something together and I will list it in the show notes. And then we can, starting with our next episode and going forward, I will do better about, bringing up these particular sources. And I mean, off the top of my head, like, I would start with the What is Politics video that I sent you. He has a whole series called Theory Lectures, Old to New. I would say start with the very beginning. I mean, he goes from as basic as it gets, helping you to understand what does the word politics even mean, right? And then he goes on and he just keeps building and building and building until he helps you understand, like, the various arguments about what is left and right, and how this or that, yes, this particular thing may fall in the leftist camp in this particular situation, but under this condition it'll fall in the right. And it's very, very, very informative, and I think it will help. It's a good way to kind of ground yourself and first understand what left versus right is in a very, like, holistic sense of like politics, period.
I think that's a great place for listeners to start. I would agree with that. So if you will, make sure that is linked in the episode notes.
I absolutely will. He's like my favorite, and I get so excited every time he releases something new. So, but yes. Okay. Thank you. And also I will definitely put together some other sources that I would recommend to get you going, to help you understand it. And let me just make a quick disclaimer. I have only read Marx. I have not read a lot of the other, like, political theorists, because, like I told John, they're incredibly dense and boring. And I usually need somebody to like dumb it down for me. So I tend to learn about theory through others who have done the hard work of reading the really dense material and who can explain it to me in normal people terms. So that is probably the sort of, like, I can give you sources to the originals, right? But I'm also going to prepare some other content creators who are freaking experts on those particular topics.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So, okay, moving on to our lifestyles of the looting class segment. John is going to clue us in about this terrible dude named Jeffrey Yass.
Good old Jeffrey Yass. Born in Queens, he is this episode's Scooby-Doo villain, and why we can't have nice things. So he was born in Queens, New York City in 1958, grew up in a middle-class family. He is the son of Gerald Yass and Sybil Yass. His childhood sweetheart, Yass attended public schools in Queens, graduating from Bayside High. Saved by the Bell, maybe? He earned a BS.
I wonder if he knows AC Slater.
Screech. In mathematics and economics from Binghamton University, and pursued graduate studies in economics at New York University, but did not graduate. In 1987, they co-founded Susquehanna International Group, the largest U.S. trader of liquid stocks. Before founding SIG, Yass was a professional gambler, winning from poker and horse betting. I did not know you could be a professional. I mean, I knew that they had those poker tournaments that you see on like ESPN 10 or whatever. but I didn't know you could be a professional gambler. Anyway, so
Hmm.
billionaire trader Israel Englander sponsored Yass for a seat on the Philadelphia Stock Exchange, and SIG initially operated from an exchange office. Yass's father, Gerald, a CPA, played a crucial role in founding the company, contributing to its back office bookkeeping operations. That sounds kind of corrupt, doesn't it? Back office bookkeeping?
Mm. Yeah, that does
Gerald
sound a little sus.
Gerald remained actively involved for decades, supporting the family's early infrastructure. As of 21, SIG generates almost 1/10 of the market making trade volume and exchange trade funds. Forbes' wealthiest list currently 30th, up from the 64th richest person in 2024. He climbs freaking more than 30 levels of wealth on the billionaire list from 24 to 25. What a fucking feat that is. He is a U.S. American money manager. Jeffrey Yass, an American billionaire businessman, has a net worth of 59 billion as of May 2025, up from 27.6 billion in 24. He's the richest man in Pennsylvania and the 25th wealthiest person globally. A registered libertarian, he supports conservative causes and has donated millions to super PACs. We are going to find people who are on the left because, I think we talked about it before when I was in the pawn industry and I was donating to the PAC there. We had a lady that was over it all, told me that basically they were writing checks to the left and right. So don't think we're only focused on those motherfuckers who are on the right. We're coming after those on the left as well.
Well, hold on. I want to make sure that we don't confuse. We're not confused by the word libertarian. Just in case some people don't know, there's a right-wing libertarianism and there's a left-wing libertarianism. And I assure you, Jeffrey Yass is not a left-wing libertarian.
Thank you for making sure we know that.
Okay, thank you. I feel better now.
Yass and his wife, Janine, are advocates for school choice. That's going to be important in the future, and have donated tens of millions of dollars to the cause. He co-founded Susquehanna International Group and is a major investor in TikTok. After meeting with Trump in March of 2024, Trump reversed his stance on banning TikTok. Trump and Congress considered TikTok a national security threat and issued an executive order for ByteDance, TikTok's parent company, to sell or be banned. However, a week before the Forbes article was published, Trump spoke out against the ban, claiming it would benefit Facebook, which Trump considers an enemy of the state. Wonder if he still considers it an enemy of the state, considering how close Mr. Facebook himself is with Trump now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes has donated to conservative politicians opposing the TikTok ban, including 24 million to Senator Rand Paul and 32,200 to Rep. Thomas Massey. They have reportedly threatened.
Whoa. What did Thomas Massey do? Come on, man.
Look, I'm just
That's a huge differential there.
Right?
Yeah, I wonder what makes Rand so special. They're both
there's
libertarian.
There's the bigger question. What did Rand do? They have reportedly threatened to stop donating to supporters of the ban. All Eyes on Yaz, a movement of Pennsylvanians, is committed to ensuring equal voices in communities and that elected officials prioritize the people over billionaire. Here's a direct text from All Eyes on Yaz website. Jeff Yass, Pennsylvania's richest man and one of the world's wealthiest individuals, has spent years manipulating Pennsylvania's democracy by defunding politicians who aligned with his interests. Yaz's $45 billion wealth drowns out the voices of everyday Pennsylvanians, undermining the principles of one person, one vote. Since 2017, 1/3 of state legislators in Pennsylvania have received funding from his PACs, holding the power to shape policies affecting living wages, housing, and public education. Since 2020, Yaz has spent more on Pennsylvania elections than the combined efforts of the top 10 corporate PACs. He has financed elected officials with ties to QAnon, white nationalism, and anti-immigrant and anti-Muslim sentiments. Yaz's primary focus is privatizing schools through school vouchers, diverting public funds away from public schools and potentially causing school closures in Arizona, where the program drained the state's budget and affected essential public services. His agenda includes avoiding taxes and reducing public services, defunding public schools, and funneling taxpayer dollars to private schools, and busting unions, particularly teachers' unions.
Hmm.
So let's revisit the mystery time machine and go back a few minutes. Remember when I mentioned that Yaz donated $24 million to Senator Rand Paul?
Oof. Yeah.
From a Forward Kentucky article published on October 16th of 2024, Jeff Yass, a Pennsylvania billionaire and Republican mega donor, is funding a multi-million-dollar television advertising campaign supporting the school choice amendment on the November ballot. In early September, the Political Action Committee Protect Freedom began running ads advocating for Amendment 2, which would allow the General Assembly to spend tax dollars for educating students at private schools. One of those ads features Senator Paul making the pitch for the amendment. Protect Freedom is a national PAC closely affiliated with Paul and largely funded by Yass since its formation in 2017 by Paul's political associates. Kentucky ranks 32nd in education among all 50 states, according to U.S. News. The state has faced challenges in funding and educational attainment, contributing to its lower ranking. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Jeff Yass, and that is his impact on American politics and the South.
Well, guys, I think that wraps it up for today. So again, do not forget to like, share, subscribe. Please comment on our stuff. Let us know what you think. If there's anything in particular you guys want to hear us talk about, or maybe a book suggestion for our class discussion that we intend to bring back eventually. Anything. I'm interested to hear what you all think. John, did you have any parting words?
Just as Big Sarge would say, 7 words in the comments will help us with the algorithm. If you're not a fan or a member of Big Sarge and the Sons of Liberty, check them out. Also, Drill Sergeant Doug at Political Drain, big fan.
Yes.
Otherwise, that's all I got for this episode. All right, y'all. I'm John Brown.
And I'm Butterfly Screams.
And this is We the Way People podcast. See y'all later.
Later.